the end of the day, my choices are my choices. And if you start to take away my choice, like who's to say that there would be someone else who would tell me, no, you cannot eat meat anymore? And they're actually trying to do that right now, it seems like. Why would that be okay under the guise of, well, we know this will make you healthier?
Well, are you slippery sloping me?
You can unslip it if you want to break it down for me.
I think arguing that the future dystopian outcome of something right now is a little tricky.
Okay.
So this idea that in the future nobody's going to be allowed to eat meat is a dystopian idea. Not that it couldn't happen; it could clearly happen.
It is a stated goal of some of the vegan burger kind of companies. They've even stated as much. The Impossible Food CEO even said by 2035 we want to eliminate all meat from the planet and have people eating plant-based burgers.
Yeah, I mean, that's the cool thing about human beings, that any future is possible. We can literally do whatever we want. We can reprogram everything if we want.
Yeah.
Versus the idea that everything is set and we've always done it this way and we're not going to change it. So you can look at that stuff. The problem with slippery sloping is that you sort of look at what you're doing in the present.
Yeah.
And you're using a future argument to try to justify the present.
And that's prudent to do on an individual basis, right? Like you want to look into the future. Will keto work for me if I start doing this plan? And then what happens if it doesn't work for me? That's kind of the crux of what we're talking about here today. You kind of want people to be in that mindset of looking forward while living in the present.
Yeah, rhetoric, keto and a lot of these things, they basically are trying to do that sort of what I call a binary of now and future. So what I'm doing now is this, but this is the future that I want. I have a hypothetical future that I want to create. And I believe that if I do these things in the present, it will get me to that hypothetical future. So we're always fighting. We're always in that continuum as human beings because we can project the future, right? And we can control the present somewhat. So it's great. It's a great offer. It sounds great, but it's also incredibly challenging to control the present and to actually get to the future that you want.
Yeah.
Most people fail at almost every single thing they try. Let's start with that as a primary principle.
Okay.
Everything, like across the board.
And it's probably true at some point, anything that you begin.
95% failure.
Yeah. And it's probably true. Well, and that's the statistic that is usually thrown out, that if you lose weight on any diet, 95% of the people will gain all the weight back.
Yeah, and why is that, Jimmy? What's your explanation for that?
My explanation is they get frustrated at some point because their reason, their persuasion wasn't effective enough to make them do it for longer than just willing themselves to whatever success that they did have.
Well, this goes back to the idea of highly constructed self-persuasion. The whole offer of rhetoric is that the more sophisticated you get with your persuasion, the more effective it is. And that's your goal, right? You want to do stuff in the present that's going to work so that you can get to the future that you want. And we're not very sophisticated in our persuasion. Like even the idea of being highly positive seems strong to people. Like, yes, if I can just stay positive, that's going to get me to the future because it's going to control me right now. That is a very familiar persuasion theory. And I keep bringing you back to, is it true? Apparently it's not, because people fail still 95% of the time.
So if it's not true, what is true?
Well, I don't know, let's start looking around the other options. Like the one that I suggested earlier, be more effective. And I'm not saying I have the answer to this.
Yeah.
I'm investigating it, but maybe you'd be better off, instead of repressing your negativity and trying to just over-amplify your positivity, maybe you'd be better off with a different approach.
Balanced?
Maybe, I don't know, maybe balanced, maybe 95% negative.
I think it's going to be...
Let's ask that question. Would that work?
Well, I don't think universally anything's going to work across the board. I think you're going to, just like a diet, you kind of need to tailor this to your own personality, your own like self-realized ways of motivating yourself and persuading yourself. I don't think it's going to be the same for Dan French as it is for Jimmy Moore.
Yeah, clearly not. I mean, human beings are incredibly subjective. We're all complex. Things are going to work somewhat. Things are not going to work somewhat. But let's just take that one. And since I'm talking to you, unless somebody else wants to jump in here.
Oh, yeah, we're going to bring people up in a minute. Go ahead and hit the hand button, you guys. Raise your hand if you want to talk to Dan.
Other people, because you need to take this set of principles and you need to figure out how they apply to you so that you can be successful. And you're giving me, and you launched this with a really strong set of persuasion principles along the idea of positivity.
Yes, because that's what people believe.
Superpower in keto and in health and things like that. We have to stay positive. But I hear that a lot, and I still see massive failure. So I'm now like looking at it going, that doesn't seem to work.
So what breaks down if positivity isn't the answer? I think positivity is a good fuel to start the persuading yourself to get going. What sustains it? What is that long-lasting fuel that keeps him going?
Well, there are a lot of different, we haven't pulled up other ones other than, positivity and negativity right now to get started. But the idea, I'm not saying that positivity doesn't have uses. What I'm saying is when you look at this, you have a whole list of options. Like there's a menu of ways to persuade yourself. And you're pulling out positivity and you're putting it in front of me and you're like, that's what I think people need. And I'm like, okay, so let's either figure out how to do that really well, or if it doesn't work, then let's figure out what it needs, what adjustments it needs to make it work.
To tweak it, right?
So if we're going positivity, you're like, I want to amplify that. You clearly believe in it, Jimmy.
I do for me only because I've seen, I do for me, Dan, because I've seen it in myself, has been helpful for me, and it keeps my mindset right for that. I don't do well in a negative mindset.
Ever? Like, you never have negativity?
Negative actions are thrust on everybody. And so, I suppose, and I've had negative stuff happen in my life, traumatic things, as a kid and things like that I think did shape me into who I am. So I'm not saying there's no persuasive value in the negativity. I just know that Jimmy Moore thrives more in that positivity. But I hear what you're saying. Like, that's kind of a common notion out there in our culture of just stay positive. In fact, when this pandemic started last year, everybody just stay positive and keep your spirits high. And I'm like, I think some people want to feel a little depressed because this is depressing.
Yeah, and again, if you go into other theoretical approaches, psychotherapy, the last thing they want you to do is stay positive because you never work your way through your negatives.
Right.
Which means you're always carrying that stuff around, and it's always defeating you in this kind of background way that you're just acting like it isn't there.
Yeah.
So your advice to just do everything you can to stay positive would actually, within that theory set of psychoanalysis, be an incredibly defeating, failure-rich approach.
Yeah, and I'm not recommending it. I'm just stating that is my core principle of how I live my life. I think people should figure out how to best persuade themselves, which is why I wanted you on here today. I feel like there are a lot of different strategies, and we've definitely heavily focused on the positive and the negative. What are some of those other things?
Well, just this is what I do. Like, if you just take one of the subsets within rhetoric is rationality, like trying to lay everything out logically into its parts so that you can work on each piece of it. And you see this a lot in health. Health is incredibly complicated. You're dealing with, the body, and you're dealing with advertising, and you're dealing with all these different things that it requires so many different expertises that rationality kind of breaks down. So even your idea of keto, and you've said a couple of times paleo, has fallen out of favor, and that it's not what it used to be, and that I used paleo to lose 125 pounds. All that stuff is, if you look at it logically and you start asking, is that true? Is paleo better than keto? And you have all this argument according to diet approaches, eating approaches.
Yeah.
And it gets super complicated, and nobody knows the answer.
Which is why I think...
Tell me, why is keto... You tell me, Jimmy, just give me 2 quick reasons why keto is better than paleo.
It's not. That's my
So
answer.
then why is everybody yelling keto now instead of
Well,
paleo?
it's food trends. I think paleo's a good diet for specific people. I think keto's a good diet for specific people. Hell, I even think a vegan diet is probably a good diet for certain people. So like this is in this idea of diet, like not having a dogmatic approach about it, and like a lot of the things that I say now, Dan, is just kind of figure out what works for you. And yeah, I've never been a fan of this is the diet that everybody in the world should ever go on and never go off of ever again. That there is no such diet.
Yeah, but they're diets that you consider to be bad, right?
I have diets that would be less than perfect for Jimmy Moore. I do believe that.
So what you're doing to me right now is you're escaping into individualism in order to.
I'm a highly individual guy. Dan. Are you trying to get me to talk collectively?
You're doing it as a dodge because you're a public figure.
Okay, but I'm not dodging. What? Ask the question directly. Ask the question directly. Say it again.
Tell me a bad diet. What is a bad, evil, villainous, don't ever do that diet, Jimmy?
I think anything that has ultra processed foods as its primary source of calories is an incredibly bad diet. How about that?
Okay, so like when I do my, you've heard my, at least pieces of my one-person stand-up.
I've heard it all, yes.
25 pounds. One of the things I say is like I give people principles that I use to lose a lot of weight, and the first one is I don't eat anything made by an American company.
You want those Chinese protein bars, huh?
I don't eat anything made by, I can say, capitalist entity.
Yes.
I don't eat anything made by a corporation.
Okay, fair enough.
It's because processed food makes people fat.
Yes. So you agree with me on that rhetoric. A series
of claims that I like to throw in. I do it partially because they're funny, and partially because they're true in my experience. You know, and they're activating. When you hear people say that, it's like a really strong statement. And as a public figure and the type of things I do, really strong statements are great. Like I literally will tell people like that food makes people fat no matter where you take it. Like you can drop American food, corporate processed food in the middle of the Sudan, you know, and come back 2 years later and they're all going to be big belly rednecks.
Yep.
Yeah. They're going to be like, I don't know what that food is, but man, that is good stuff right there. Welcome to the Pizza Hut.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So I think
that's a concept. So you found a villain, right?
And I think that's a common villain of all of these diets we've been talking about: paleo, keto, even carnivore, vegan. They all oppose processed foods.
Sure, that became one of the villains of alternative eating theories.
Yep.
What does that villain think about all that?
Well, they're losing money if those of us that push that out there convince other people and persuade them that it's true.
Yeah, but you're not winning at all. Like you're not winning against processed food. Processed food is
massively
dominating you.
I am on an individual basis and in my sphere of influence of people that listen to me.
Yeah, that's tiny. Like compare your failure.
Fair enough, but
to their success.
But that's why I'm trying to replicate Jimmy Moore's galore, because eventually they will come down.
Will they?
If I have anything to say about it.
Well, I'm trying to teach you how to bring them down, Jimmy.
Okay, let's go. Tell me all your secrets.
Well, it's like this idea of making them villains. It's really hard to make them villains. You know, in the alternative health communities, everybody has accepted that they're villains. But how did you get there? Like, you're just being told they're villains, or you doing science?
No.
How are you finding this?
Little diabetes made me get bigger. McDonald's with their stupid Monopoly game, making me go to the drive-thru 3-4 times a day. Like, I have memories of all of these things. And no, they didn't force me to eat their food, but it was highly palatable, and it kind of led me down this path of, holy crap, look at all the activities that I did, all under the guise of this feels good, I want to do it in the moment. so that it's easy for me to make them a villain.